Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Skilled Nursing News Virtual Staffing Summit. The session is titled Self Scheduling Really Works, presented by Skilled Nursing News. Before we begin, I want to thank our sponsors, EasyShifts, and to give everyone an understanding of how this webinar will run, you'll hear a presentation from our speakers, and then we'll reserve some time towards the end for audience Q&A. We welcome your participation throughout the webinar. So if you have any questions or comments, please enter them using the Q&A widget, and we will address as many as we can. You are also able to submit your feedback and react live to the webinar. Just click on the thumbs up emoji within your main menu bar to begin the fun. The session is being recorded and will be available on the Skilled Nursing News website. Attendees will also receive a link to view the on-demand recording via email as soon as it becomes available. And finally, if you experience any technical difficulties during today's webinar, please try refreshing your internet browser. And if the problem persists, please reach out using the Q&A widget and we'll be happy to assist you. Now, without further ado, let me introduce our speakers today. I am joined by Michael Christensen. He's the founder of EasyShifts. Michael helps healthcare providers create staff schedules that ensure high standards of patient care while achieving employee work-life balance. He started EasyShifts with the vision of giving healthcare workers flexibility over their work schedules so they could pick up casual shifts and ease the administrative burden on schedulers. Michael enjoys collaborating directly with the program's users to brainstorm ways to make the lives of healthcare workers better. Jim White is the Chief Culture Officer at Ignite Medical Resorts. Ignite is an upscale skilled nursing and rehab company specializing in helping their guests get well in an environment that is more home-like. Jim brings more than 30 years of experience in employee engagement and retention programs across multiple industries. He has a true passion for treating each customer as his guest and each employee as his partner. His expertise lies in understanding the nuances and needs of employees that come to work for Ignite, installing many programs that add value, and having employees want to work with them, which focuses on long-term retention. We also have with us Shannon Yanis. Shannon is the Director of Culture and Engagement at Ignite Medical Resorts in McHenry, Illinois. Shannon always wants to make her staff feel important and appreciated while fostering a culture where team members feel responsibility to their coworkers. Welcome to all. I will now hand off the virtual mic to Michael to kick off our presentation, and I'll be back for the Q&A. Thank you.
Thank you, Zahida. So over the years, we've heard lots of comments from the industry about self-scheduling. I remember hearing some say, if we could only figure out how to do self-scheduling, indicating that some maybe feel it's challenging or scary. Others have said, if we tried that here, it would just be pure chaos. And then they just dismiss the idea outright. But we're here to assure you that self-scheduling really does work. And we've got 16, 17 years to prove it. In 2008, EasyShifts was invented by an RN who wanted flexibility and access to their work schedule. So it was designed from the perspective of the nurse, from the actual boots on the ground workforce that is providing the healthcare directly to your patients and residents. We've helped skilled nursing facilities, hospitals, senior living organizations implement self-scheduling. We learned a lot of things along the way. We've seen some pick it up right away. We've seen others struggle at first, but what we've seen consistently is that it's an ingredient that helps foster a healthy work culture and makes people actually want to work at your facilities. Also should note too that, just to be clear, the EasyShifts does not provide any temp labor. We never have, probably never will. We're a system for your own team to use for your own staff. So on our first slide here, I just want to draw your attention to this. This idea of self-scheduling isn't a new novel idea. It goes back. There's even publications dating back to the 80s that I found that reference and discuss the topic of self-scheduling. This one is a particularly good one. It goes back to 2008 from a nursing management journal. It was published, in which you said here is one way to promote staff retention is through the use of self-scheduling. the ability of staff members to choose the day and shift they'll work following predetermined criteria that ensures appropriate unit staffing. Self-scheduling offers nursing staff the opportunity to be autonomous and in charge of their work schedules, promoting accountability and responsibility that lead to job satisfaction and personal growth. The staff members who have a better understanding of staffing and scheduling issues are less likely to have unscheduled absences and last-minute requests to change shifts. So just to kind of dwell on that paragraph for a second here, notice a few things that she mentioned. First of all, there's predetermined criteria, right? So with self-scheduling, you need to be able to set up some sort of guardrails, some sort of protections in place to make sure that the staff are able to operate within the bounds that you've determined. Also, it mentions here that they can be in charge of their own schedule, and it promotes accountability and responsibility. So it's interesting because facility operators, they want their staff to be accountable. They want them to be responsible. But by doing this, you're also giving them a degree of control over their own lives, which builds job satisfaction and personal growth. In fact, what it does is it makes them accountable to each other. So their fellow nurses, their fellow LPNs and CNAs, they become accountable to each other. And of course, the outcome, as it mentions here, is they're less likely to have unscheduled absences, last-minute requests to change shifts. So we've seen that for 16 years at EasyShifts, as much as it was true back in 2008 when this was written. She goes on to say that it's now being used as a staff retention tool by satisfying the individual needs of nurses and creating a more employee-friendly work environment that can also be used to attract new staff. Demonstrating respect for staff members' needs and ultimately improving patient care, self-scheduling enhances staff morale, staff control over their work environment, and offers flexible scheduling options. So one thing that's interesting to mention here is it also can help attract new staff. Well, it's something, we want to hire more workers. Sometimes we feel there's not enough people to hire. What actually we've observed happening with EasyShifts customers is that when they know they have a self-scheduling system in place, they tell their friends, and then their friends come and apply to work at your facility because that's where they want to work. In fact, so many nurses over the last 4 to 5 years have left working in facilities to pursue doing a temp nurse or a travel nurse work. And one of the key reasons they've done that is because they want to get flexibility when they work. But we're here to tell you that you can do that yourself. You can give that to your own staff, and then they're not going to leave you to go work through those other types of agencies. On our next slide here, of course, it may be a scary thing. Maybe it's something that you feel it would be chaos, but she says here, the benefits outweigh the risks, right? While there are risks involved with any project, self-scheduling can be a successful system with many benefits to the organization. It provides an alternative to traditional scheduling practices, freeing up time for leaders to perform other tasks and providing staff members with autonomy. And ultimately, it can lead to increased job satisfaction and retention rates. So as we can see, this idea of self-scheduling, it's been around. It's a tested and true system that truly works. It builds satisfaction among your team, increases responsibility among the team members. So what is self-scheduling? We'll go into that a little bit more detail later, but just some things that it's not. Again, it's not people screwing up overtime hours. It's not people messing up the schedule. It's not a completely structureless, pure chaos thing where you lose control. Many feel that if they don't keep a firm grip on the schedule, things are just going to fall apart. And that's simply not the case. But also self-scheduling is not about absolutes because you can roll it out to varying degrees. You can go all the way from what we call a full open scheduling to a hybrid scheduling. And there's many different degrees that you can roll it out to what is appropriate for your organization. But what it does do is it does make your team accountable to each other. It builds respect, and that respect is a two-way street. Within your workforce, everyone has different priorities, right? So some of your workers, maybe they want to work nearly full time, but they have other obligations. Maybe they're a caregiver themselves and they have their own aging parents that they have to care for. So there may be afternoons that they have to be able to set aside to provide for them. Maybe their child has a recital coming up and they really need to get that time off. And many systems have a way of requesting formal time off, but when you have a self-scheduling system, they're able to find their own replacement to get that time time free. It allows employees to have control over their own work schedule, and it also frees up the employer to direct their time to other more important administrative duties. What we've seen is gradually over time, trust is built, fears diminished, and that trust is reinforced gradually over time as you see positive results from having this type of system in place. So as I mentioned before, you can roll it out gradually and phased. I'm going to show you the first image here. This is an example of what we would call full open scheduling. And yes, we do have customers, skilled nursing and hospitals and senior living that do full open scheduling. Essentially, what this would amount to is from a template, you may have up to a 1 week, up to maybe a 12-week template. That's a rotation. And you've determined the appropriate levels of staffing that you need for different job codes, but you've left them as open shifts. So when they go out to the real week, they're published as an open shift. And then that sends out a notification to all your team members that they can come in and start picking up open shifts. We've seen cases of customers that post their week out 8 weeks ahead of time, and within 2 days, the entire schedule is completely filled. So that's full self-scheduling. Now, granted, the majority don't opt for that because that's maybe one extreme. Another approach is what we like to call hybrid scheduling. Now, hybrid scheduling is maybe in your template, you do assign some of the shifts on a regular recurring basis. In this example on the screenshot, we're seeing the weekends and the Friday evening are all fully scheduled. Many go far beyond that. Maybe they have the majority of the shifts are assigned on the template and only have a few openings. Regardless of to what degree you choose to roll out self-scheduling, it still is self-scheduling because you're giving the staff the ability to pick up open shifts, trade with each other, find their own replacements, request time off, and do all the things that put them in control. And what we've seen over time, gradually as years go by, using a system of self-scheduling, more and more is open initially off the template because the team gets on board with that type of culture. So what's really involved in making this successful? Like I mentioned earlier, respect is a two-way street, right? Well, to make self-scheduling really work, it needs to be a team effort, and you need to present it to the employees, first of all, how it benefits them, right? So we've talked to customers in the past. They tell us that they've had to have like a team huddle and just kind of get everyone together on the same page about we're gonna go with self-scheduling. We expect this from you. You're gonna get this from us, and it's a benefit to both parties. But a couple elements need to be in place. One, you need to be trusting the employees. The employees need to trust the workplace. Employees need to trust the employers. It needs to be mutual respect, and ultimately, it really comes down heavily to company culture. So company culture, we hear that like time and again. Culture is really a key ingredient to this. So you don't need to have that 100% to get started, but over time, this will help build respect. It will build trust. It will build culture. And as you build trust, build respect, and build culture, self-scheduling will become more effective, and it becomes a self-reinforcing cycle. Here's a quote from a customer of ours that's been using our platform for 15 years. She's a director of emergency services at a hospital. And she said, "We have a culture where everybody understands teamwork, embraces new employees, is open and welcoming. And it's also a big part of why the self-scheduling policy through EasyShifts works for us, because people want to help each other out." So we see it really builds respect among the team members, helps everyone to have better relationships. They know they can help each other. When I'm in need, my coworker comes and takes my shift. Now I feel a sense of responsibility to provide them assistance the next time that they need help, which builds teamwork, builds cooperation within the team. Now, she clearly emphasizes respect. So we have to focus on culture, right? And the outside world needs to see your facility as a compassionate employer that cares about its employees. Because if you do, it shows, right? The residents are going to recognize that if you care about your staff. The family members, when they come in to visit their family, that are the patients, they're going to be able to recognize in the atmosphere if this is a loving organization that cares about their workforce. And we have with us, of course, Shannon Yanez and Jim White with Ignite Medical Resorts. And in my opinion, Ignite Medical Resorts is a great organization. that's very concerned about cherishing their workforce. And they're a very good example of doing all the things we just talked about. And they use EasyShifts at all of their facilities around the country. So we'll have a little conversation here. Invite Jim and Shannon to share any thoughts that you have. But maybe to kind of get the conversation started, I'll just ask you both, like, how would you describe the culture that you work to build at Ignite Medical Resorts?
Jan, ladies first.
Thank you, Jim. So culture is it's to appreciate and retain our staff. It, like Michael had said, be held accountable for their own actions. And also feel definitely to have some responsibility within their coworkers. It all embodies having a positive culture. Positive staff equals positive culture.
Yeah, I would concur with what Shannon said. One of the things we started out to do when we created Ignite was to root our business in culture. And, we're still a relatively young company. There's lots of stuff we still need to do. And we moved in the direction of EasyShifts because of the self-scheduling module. We're probably on the very beginning parts of trying to get it launched out to the team. But the flexibility of the platform, and I got to tell you, these guys have developed many customizations just based on us picking up the phone and giving them a call. But having the programs in place, going back to the culture, having the programs in place that your employees can take advantage, and showing them that we do care about what's happening in their lives and put things in front of them that have meaning and value are one of the things that our founders have put in place, like I said, since the beginning. We started that way, and we just continue to keep building in a way that we hope is speaking to our employees. People want to come and work with us, and over time, that can only get better with the right partners.
Yeah, very good. And I'm sure you've noticed, like, when your staff are happy, what kind of outcome does that result in the work being done and in the care being provided to the residents and the patients? Yeah, so you see
when they're happy, when your staff is, when they're happy to do the work, right? So if I have employees who are happy and I'm asking favors of them, they're more likely to help me in exchange.
Correct. I would agree with that. And, we take every opportunity when we can around all of this to celebrate our teams. The skilled nursing environment is very, very challenging. Those of you on this call that are part of that know that to be true. At the end of the day, because of that challenging environment, you have to make things fun and engaging for your staff. And when you can succeed in putting some of those things in place, you get what Shannon said. You get happy employees who are willing to go the extra mile. They commit themselves to the company. And, that longevity makes it easier for all of us.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I've heard one of our customers said to me once that, maybe the primary job of the nurses, the CNAs, RNs, LPNs at your facility is to provide for the patients, to care for the patients. But those who are leaders on this call, those who, manage a facility or manage an organization that provides care, their responsibility is more to provide for the employees, to care for the employees, who in turn, because like Jim mentioned, it's difficult, right? Like sometimes family members are upset. Sometimes things don't go as planned. And that can be very demoralizing for the caregivers. And they need to be constantly built up and encouraged to continue doing this difficult job. So with all the work that you're doing, Shannon and Jim, to build this positive employee culture, how do you encourage buy-in from the employees?
But, buy-in is not always easy. I like to say that we tell our building operators to be choosy with staff. Obviously, you have to hire for skills, but on top of the skills and the certifications that are needed, we try to hire for culture and fit. And so we start, it has to start there. We start there with each of those things. And then, we have a very robust orientation program, which is all about fun. The first day of orientation is nothing but fun. There's no paperwork. There's no work that happens. We take them out of the building for lunch, and we really create an atmosphere of this is, some of the things you can expect working at this company. We theme our orientation and many of the programs in our companies around a superhero model and motif. We have them come to orientation dressed as superheroes. And again, that very first impression, like many things in life, it's the first impression that somebody has that makes the difference. And, those of you who are familiar with HR practice, an employee is never as engaged as they will ever be other than the first day of work that they have with you. And so making that first day memorable and fun is probably the single most important thing that starts the whole buy-in process.
Yeah, very good. Awesome. And I think too, like as you're talking, it made me think because I follow you on LinkedIn and I see all your posts, and you see Jim. Maybe some of the tenants maybe have seen Jim on LinkedIn as he goes all the way around the country, and he's surrounded by a bunch of happy workers and one particularly embarrassed worker usually is in the front. So, what is fanning the flame, Jim? Could you explain that to us?
You basically just described it.
Oh, did I? Okay.
Fanning the flame is something that only I have the unique privilege, and it is a privilege, I have to say, by far and away. Shannon knows this. It's the best part of my job, being able to go out and recognize an employee at the building level who is picked by the team at the building. I don't pick the people. I celebrate who they want to celebrate, but it's getting in front of that employee and, obviously recording it so we can post it socially. We have a lot of, if you're ever on our Facebook page, you can see the tons of things we do, not only around employee engagement, but what we do with our guests and families. But it's my ability to go out and recognize the team member, celebrate them, give them a $100 gift card that they can go out and hopefully spend on something that means something to them. And, many of the people, if I think back over the years I've been doing this now, there's several people that I've done that with that are still part of the company. And I can't say it's because of that one single event. It's hopefully because of many of the different things that we do. But I'm telling you, by far and away, it's the best part of my job. I love doing that. And the employees are so genuinely happy to get them. And, sometimes you get surprised by a little emotion from them. I love that stuff. It's so great to see that they're touched by us recognizing them.
Yeah, I have no doubt that goes a long way to helping you retain your team, because in this industry, pressures and stresses mound. They could feel dejected and discouraged about different things, but if they know that they're appreciated at their workplace, that can go a long way to fighting back against those challenges. So appreciate that. So Shannon, I got a question for you. So when you were first told about a year ago that your facility, McHenry, was going to start using a new workforce management software, what was your reaction? Honest answers only.
Yeah, I know the truth, Shannon, so tell them the truth.
Well, I was initially not a fan of change, but change is hard, right? It had nothing to do with the program or anything like that. It was just change is hard. So yeah.
And you fought it.
I was initially.
You fought it.
I did. I fought it. I fought it, but I also did. I was one of the first buildings to trial it. And I think Jim had me trial it because I was completely against change.
No.
I don't think that's the reason. I think because he held you in high regard as someone who really.
And here's the thing. As a scheduler, she is one of the best, she is one of the best in the company. And yes, there's a reason she's on this webinar as well, because she's the true story of somebody that fought the change, was really against it because change is hard, actually bought into what we were doing and gave you guys most of the customizations that you've done came from Shannon. And so she was the right person to have on this webinar because she embraced it and really made it what it is for our company. And so I know you get embarrassed, Shannon, but you can live through that. I mean, everything I just said.
Yeah, so we're fanning the flame even on this webinar. But yeah, we appreciate you, Shannon. Thank you so much. And I think, I don't know if I think I told you this, but I usually tell people that whoever's like the most resistant in the beginning ends up being our biggest fan later, because they're the ones that I always say that are most acutely experiencing the challenge of the scheduling issues. So they don't want to make a change if it's not going to be beneficial, because they're the ones affected, or maybe others are maybe on board right away, but they don't feel affected. But you were definitely someone who was going to be affected. And so after making the change, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, and I'm not making a shameless plug for you guys, but at the end of the day, the tool we were using really didn't have a lot of functionality or bells and whistles that we were able not only to customize with you, but things that your system had to make it more engaging for the staff to use EasyShifts. And you know, like I said, not a shameless plug. That's actually true, and Shannon can back that up. Absolutely.
Yeah, it is. That is very true. And when we first rolled out EasyShifts and I was walking around and talking to the staff, I told them, yes, tell me the pros, but tell me the negatives too. I want to know every single thing that you don't like about it, that you want changed, as well as everything that you do like about it. But if we're trialing something and EasyShifts is going to hear what we have to say, let's tell them. And we did. We came back and we gave you our feedback, and everything that we had, every issue that we had, you guys were able to work with it and change it and modify it to fit our company.
And they did a quick,
you know,
one.
I do.
3-week turnaround. Yeah.
Yeah. Sure.
Thank you both. Yeah, so I appreciate that. And I know like some of your ideas ended up being things that others liked. And that's kind of our story over 16 years of focusing only in skilled nursing, hospitals, and senior living, that we get good ideas from customers like you. And then the next person we talk to thinks it's a great idea too, because we're all experiencing the same issues, right? So that's been a really good thing for us. And we really appreciate all the feedback we got from you. But what are some of the things specifically that you do like now after using it for over a year, Shannon? What are some of the things you do like about it?
What I like is that I can open it up and allow the staff to pick up their shifts. I can still control overtime based off of literally just a click of a button. The staff can pick up a full shift. They can pick up a partial shift. They have the option to have more flexibility in their schedule with picking up the shifts that they can choose. I like that we have the communication. We can use that to communicate with the staff. I can do it just per department, which is nice too, where I don't have to send a message out to the whole entire facility. I can just do just by department. The different when I'm looking on the schedule, like for the week schedule, I just by icons, I can see what changes have been made and just kind of hover over, and it'll allow me to see if somebody picked it up. If I have the overtime option blocked, it will allow me to see who has attempted to pick up the shift and that they were denied because of overtime. And then I can still go out and reach out to them and say, you know, are you still interested in this shift? We can change the hours based off of your total hours so you don't go into overtime.
Yeah, very good. And I know one of the features you actually requested with us was, we collaborated on, because it wasn't quite exactly the way you asked, but by the time we worked together, what we resulted on was that on the schedule, the staff would be able to see each other's sick calls and things like that.
Oh, yeah.
So then it kind of promotes accountability to each other. So then if there would happen to be an opening, they would see why that it wasn't the building that was causing that. But it also kind of, puts some positive peer pressure on team members to be responsible to fill the gaps in the schedule. Of course, you get informed about the acuity information from point-click care, so you get to see the right number of staffing to have, the right level, and then once the shifts are filled, you're set. So awesome. Really appreciate.
Yeah.
And how have the staff responded to being given flexibility?
Oh, one of the things that I hear back a lot from, or the constant feedback that I get, is that they appreciate being able to pick up partial shifts. So it's not just if there's a 12-hour shift open, they have the flexibility to pick.
Yeah, and I want to add to that too,
Up.
Shan.
That is, I didn't mention, but
I lost you.
sorry.
I
Sorry, Shan,
apologize.
your internet kind of slow. You're kind of cutting in and out for us. Yeah, sorry.
I was going to say, while she's working to get back to us, a lot of our facilities, a lot of our buildings kind of fought the idea of partial shifts. And, you know, those of you who are navigating the same labor issues that every company seems to have, especially in a skilled environment, getting them to open up their minds to allowing people to do partial shifts and piece something together was a hard push for a couple of our buildings. But like Shannon said, giving them the ability to pick up partial shifts and kind of control where it is that they were going with their schedule and their availability really ended up being a plus, not just for Shannon's building, but for the buildings that initially fought it as well. Like, you know, rather than trying to, you know, our company doesn't use agency at all, right? And so, you know, rather than, you know, trying to, you know, have staff come in and continually pick up shifts and risk overworking them, letting them see what was available was really beneficial for us.
Awesome. I like the fact that you mentioned that you don't use any agency, because that is a recurring symptom of using EasyShifts. Now, it's hard to say exactly how that happens, but we see that a lot within our customers, that they don't use any outside labor, and we're proud of that. Good job, guys.
I can tell you, the reason we don't use any agency is because it's a no-no from our CEO. That's how it stops.
Right. Very good. Well, that's okay. So that's the reason. Now you know the reason.
True, yeah.
Very good. Awesome. So Shannon, you're back. Did you have anything more to add to that before we move to the next question?
One of the other, a couple other things that I wanted to mention, what I liked about EasyShifts too, is that when Illinois Department of Public Health comes into our building, it's an easy report that I can print out to give to them when they ask for their scheduling. It's literally just a couple buttons and it's printed out. There is also different reports that you can access, and they're very easy to access. So it's just having that flexibility. It's as I said, it's easy. It's user friendly. The program is.
Awesome. Appreciate that. So, so what would you say to anyone listening on this call that maybe is a little fearful about trying this? Maybe they feel that this is out of reach for them to try. What would you say to them?
Change is hard, but it's an easy change. It was an easy change. It like with everything, it takes a little getting used to, right? And finding out, you know, all the little quirks and making it to work with you or your building or your company. But it definitely was worth the change and the trials and tribulations that we went through. But I mean, here a year later, I like the program. So I hope that we continue to stay with EasyShifts. I don't see anything changing, so.
Yeah, very good. And Jim, do you have anything to add to that?
No, what she said is completely accurate. We have no plans on changing. You know, it's funny, your EasyShifts, the word easy is in there, and it has been easy, and it has been beneficial for our company. So there's nothing else that needs to be said. She said it all.
Thank you. Yeah, and kind of related to that too, like when you made the selection to choose software for your organization, having a year of experience with it, why would you think it's important to focus on a software that creates a positive experience for the staff, right? Because the reason I ask that is there's so many workforce management systems out there. EasyShifts is unique in that it was created from the perspective of an RN. The original product idea was from an actual RN that worked as a nurse. so many systems are designed for like 2 people in an office at the top of the ivory tower, right? And they get their reports, they get things they like, but nobody wants to use the software. So why would you say it's important to focus on choosing software that creates a positive experience for the staff?
I would say that the most important thing in what you said is the flexibility aspect for the employees to be able to go out and have some control over what it is they do want to work and pick up. I think that, the other tool that we were using, nothing negative about them, it had some of that functionality, but it wasn't as robust or interactive, or it was easy to use as well, but it didn't have the functionality that you guys have. And I wanted to mention this earlier. Shannon mentioned department. We use this as a whole building scheduling tool. And so while, primarily a lot of people use this for nurses, the nursing department, our housekeeping department uses it, our dietary teams use it. We don't need to do it in our therapy departments, but we did launch it through the whole building.
Very awesome. Yeah, appreciate that. So thank you both for that wonderful discussion. We have a few minutes here, so I'm just going to kind of show those in the attendance kind of a little bit of a visual of what we've been describing here. So just this quick little video clip is going to show what happens when the staff pick up shifts, right? So they might go on their mobile phone, they see a list of shifts that are available. There's the open shift on the schedule. They pick it up. There it is. The change shows up. Of course, you see there's a little info icon in the shift that's tracking all the changes that have happened since the schedule was published. Here they picked up the entire shift, and then here now they're looking at their personal schedule and they see that they now have that shift on their schedule. So all the information's kept in sync and up to date. Here's a little time-lapse video of kind of like what it would look like over 48 hours of a schedule being posted. So maybe a hybrid schedule posted, openings. You see gradually over time as hours trickle by, shifts are getting filled up. And of course, you would post this probably at least a month in advance. But as these shifts are filled up, you're seeing the little info icon showing the changes that took place from the schedule. And there's a couple sick calls, but then they're getting replaced by somebody else picking it up. Maybe a shift is put up for grabs, a few trades happened, and then ultimately the schedule is filled entirely by the team within a matter of days. Another one I wanted to kind of just focus on briefly was just this activity log that we have in EasyShifts. This allows all changes within the system are tracked. Everything that happens, whether a shift is changed, a punch is changed, assignment is changed, a trade happens, all those things are tracked. So if you've got multiple administrators, this is really crucial to self-scheduling, because if you're gonna take your hands off and just let it happen, then sometimes you get in a place you have to ask yourself, well, how did I get here, right? So you go back to the activity log and you can review all the changes and understand how and why those changes took place. So to just kind of go back to this topic of how does it benefit our organization? I think we touched on that quite a bit already. But leaders, as I said earlier, they really need to focus on taking care of their staff, right? The staff, the CNAs, the LPNs, the RNs that work for you, they take care of the patients and the residents, but it's your job to take care of them. And if you do that, you're going to have better retention, better recruitment. Your staff are going to have work-life balance, which they're going to stay with you. And research shows that employees who can self-schedule just have greater work satisfaction. So Jim and Shannon, I'll just give you one last chance here. What benefits have you observed since adopting EasyShifts and flexible scheduling at Ignite Medical Resort? Or anything else you'd like to say to the group before we close?
Shan, really that would be more at the building level to begin with, but is there anything you want to add?
No, I mean, well, yeah. So employees, they revolve their lives around their schedule, right? Their work schedule. And I think having the flexibility and the options to have these flexible schedules helps them to want to continue to work with us.
Yeah, I love that.
The feedback that I've got, I was just going to say the feedback from a global level, the feedback that I've gotten from each of the buildings, other than Shannon's building, has been positive as well. Initially, there was a little friction with the changeover because, as Shannon said, change is hard, but everybody settled into what using the tool and what was going to happen. And there hasn't been, I've not heard one negative bit of information about this tool pretty much since it's been adopted.
That's good. No news is good news, right? In that case.
True.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate that. So thank you so much, Shannon and Jim and everyone attending. I'll turn this back over to Zahida, and I think she'll take it from there.
Great. Thank you, Michael. And thank you to all of you, Jim and Shannon as well, for this wonderful presentation. A reminder to our audience, if you have any questions, please submit those using the Q&A widget. And we have our first audience question here. Do you schedule your staff if shifts remain open, or do you staff your facility using other means? Maybe Jim, start off.
I honestly can't answer that because I don't do the scheduling, but I know that Shannon can.
We don't have any other means besides our own staff. As Jim stated, agency is a word that we don't use in our company. So to schedule them, it's a lot of begging. I don't want to say begging. I usually just have to ask people if they can pick up, and I'll ask for partial shifts, and we will piecemeal it together.
Yeah, I think one thing too that I've noticed other customers do is sometimes, Ignite is in a good position because I don't think they have to do this, but what some do is they have to mandate their own staff, right? So everybody gets a turn being mandated, and we don't like that word at EasyShifts, but sometimes it happens. And what EasyShifts lets them do is they track the date when they were last mandated. We have a report on that, so they can make sure that they're fairly balancing out how often different team members get mandated to come in when there's an opening. But when you're doing self-scheduling correctly and the schedule's out there months ahead of time, you don't have much of that. What you might have is somebody just gets sick the night before and calls in sick, and then you get a fill-in, but you don't usually go into the week having unfilled necessary shifts.
Well, Michael, let me add to that. I will tell you that I'm positively sure that there's other people on this call that this applies to, but knowing that people have lives and everybody enjoys their weekends, we don't do the mandating that you mentioned, but we do. When somebody's hired, there is an understanding pretty much at every one of our buildings that you're going to pick up every other weekend. And so they're mandated to do that. But other than that, they're strongly encouraged, even sometimes enticed, I guess I would say, to pick up when we really need additional help. But the retention level of our buildings is fairly good. And so while that does happen, like, we're human, I always say that, we're not a perfect company either, but at the end of the day, we work together as a team to get it to happen.
Great. There is another audience question here, and it's a two-part question. The first part is, what is your customer base? Do you work with small medical practices? And then I can maybe jump to the second part after you've answered that. Starting off with...
Yeah, so I guess Michael. I can take that. So primarily, EasyShifts is, rural hospitals, skilled nursing facilities, and senior living facilities. That's our majority. We do have some, clinical offices, like urgent care facilities and things like that, doctors' offices that do use EasyShifts, but they're a smaller percentage of our customer. But the majority is hospital, skilled nursing, and senior living.
Mm-hmm.
And then to give you some context, we have one assisted living building, but other than that, we're all skilled. And our smallest building has, probably 65, 70 employees. Our biggest building has a little under 200. And so I know that makes us in many cases a little bit bigger. Not what you're asking here, but at least that gives you, the rest of you, some context.
Mm-hmm. The second part of the question is maybe what you're referencing. What is the smallest size organization in terms of the number of employees where this can work? The audience member says that they are a 15 employee practice. It includes 12 clinicians who would use the scheduling software.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's no specific limit. I think if typically like maybe around 10 is like the smallest we would see. Like I know we even had in the past, we had a customer that used EasyShifts to schedule caregivers to take care of her autistic child that had to come in and get regular help. That was probably our smallest customer. And, you know, we see in Wisconsin, there's a lot of independent senior living companies, like in assisted living, they maybe only have 20 to 35 employees. So we have some of those, but we also have bigger ones, right? We've got large hospital systems. We've got, you know, nursing schools out in California that have 3,000 employees or 3,000 users on the system. Ignite, I think you're around 3,000 plus. We have several of the larger size too. So we cover all different sizes. So I think, yeah, 10 to 15, we do have some of that size.
Great. Another audience question. This one has to do with managing call-offs. Like, what do you do if you have those? How do you manage?
You want to take that, Shannon? What do you do when you manage call-offs?
So I mark it on EasyShifts, and it sends out a notification to the rest of the department that an opening has occurred, and then I follow up with calls and text messages. But the first notification that they receive is from EasyShifts that the shift has been opened up.
Keeping in mind, I just want to add to that, Shannon, only because I know this from the setup of the program. That notification goes out, but if somebody is willing to pick it up and it's going to put them in overtime, you have the breaks to be able to consider that as well, which is a nice function of the tool.
Yep. And it can all be kind of combined with one operation of, you know, when you go to the shift and you mark the person called in sick, or you can choose the type of call off, right? You can choose whether it's, you know, FMLA or whether it's, you know, called in sick, or even if you low census or marking someone tardy. There's a lot of different ways to record an absence. And you can, in the same process of recording that absence, it opens up the shift and will notify the staff at the same time. So you can do all of that with a matter of clicks. And with EasyShifts, you can do that right from your mobile phone. So I know many of the workforce management systems out there, they do not have those types of admin features within the mobile phone, the mobile app. Ours does. So you can be at the grocery store and you can mark an absence and notify the staff to pick up a shift.
Mm-hmm. And this one might be for you, Michael. This all sounds great. Where do I start? Some staff have a set schedule. How do I combine with those who have a set schedule?
Yeah, that's a good question. So as we showed earlier, like many have what you would call a hybrid model. In fact, I think Shannon, your building would be what I would probably describe as a hybrid model, because you don't have the entire week open when it's initially published. But you know, you may have a combination of some team members that want a set schedule, and you can just put them into the template with their set schedule. So whether it's a 2-week or a 4-week rotation, they're just programmed into the set schedule. The variation comes in where there's openings, right? So you might leave some of the shifts on the schedule open, and that's where the team members can pick up from open when it's posted off the template. But even if they choose to assign the entire week, the staff still have the ability to trade with each other, put up for grabs and get help, and then request time off and have that open up the schedule, and all those different things that are part of self-scheduling still come into play. But I would say, you know, walk before you run. So what we usually do when somebody starts is we build their schedule in EasyShifts for them. We do the entire setup for them, taking whatever they currently use. So many times it's just an Excel spreadsheet. It could be a photograph of a handwritten note. And we put into EasyShifts what they're doing now. So they start running EasyShifts with what they're currently doing. And then gradually over time, we see them start to kind of gravitate more towards the self-scheduling.
And another audience question, how will self-scheduling affect my bottom line? Michael?
Yeah, I can take that. So, I mean, ultimately, it does save quite a bit of money, right? I mean, there's many different ways it does that. So, first of all, hiring is expensive. You know, during the pandemic, you know, some places were having just outrageous turnover rates, and you spend so much time and money training new employees. You know, you want to retain them, right? So, having retention features, things like allowing them to submit anonymous feedback to the facility and monitoring them over their first 90 days, ensuring that their training is completed before they get scheduled on the floor for full shifts. Things like that will help retain staff. So that saves a ton of money right there. But then overtime, you know, by the staff being able to kind of, you know, like a fluid, like, you know, water filling into a glass, just fill in the open shifts with overtime protections enabled. And then as you get closer to the current week, maybe relaxing some of the overtime restrictions helps reduce overtime tremendously. And that immediately saves a lot of money. But there's also a tremendous amount of cost savings in the sense of time saved, productivity gained by the schedulers, by the administrators, by the employees themselves. And then, you know, just not having the openings. Like, you know, Ignite is a good example. They don't use any agency. It's just completely prohibited. But many of other customers are in the same boat. They don't use agency. They don't use outside labor or apps. And because they're working with their own staff, that is an incredible savings. I remember a customer telling me one time that it was cheaper to use their own RN than it was to get an outside agency CNA, right?
Well, especially if you have to pay overtime, it's still cheaper.
Right. So, so it's like a lot of customers do. They crack deals, you know, with their team. So in EasyShifts, you can like flag a bonus. Say if somebody picks up the shift, I'll give them an extra $50 bonus or something like that. Is still saving you a ton of money over using outside labor. So there's a lot of tools in place to help you make the most effective use of your own staff. You add that all together, the cost savings is in the hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Interesting. And then finally, this question, what if somebody doesn't have enough staff? How does it help them?
So that's a very unfortunate place to start from. And we know, and we don't want to be failing to recognize that is a reality in a lot of places, especially in rural communities. EasyShifts was founded in rural Wisconsin. You know, Green Bay, Wisconsin is fairly rural, and all the surrounding areas is very rural. There's not a lot of population. Some counties only have a handful of RNs that even live there, and your labor pool is very thin. But, you know, one thing that we found is that it does prove to be an effective tool to help with hiring, because they do tell their friends. If they have there's so many places, there's so many facilities where staff do not get a positive experience working there. And when you provide that positive experience, they tell their friends, and then they all want to come rushing to work at your facility. So we've seen that in a lot of places where people come and apply for them. In fact, a lot of our customers will show EasyShifts during the interview process, so they understand during the interview how it's going to be working there. And that's effective because that increases your likelihood that they're actually going to take that job. Because the way the job market has been for the last like 4 or 5 years is they may interview with you, but they may also interview with 4 other places in the area. So what's the determining factor for them to make the choice to choose your building? It might be because you're offering flexible scheduling with a system like EasyShifts.
Great. Well, if there are no other audience questions, I'd like to wrap up the session. Thank you again to Michael, Jim, and Shannon for this fantastic presentation, and EasyShifts as well for bringing this presentation to us today. Thank you so much to all who joined us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.